Shout out to G-Man Boxing. Where's the piss bottle? It's over there.
Alright people, Monday morning, review of the week time. I like doing these, people like them as well, so I keep doing them. And as I said before, I really enjoy doing these because there's a lot of stories that happen during the week that you may, some of them I miss, some of them I only actually discover when I'm doing this, when I have a look back at the week, and others you just don't have the time. Because there's time where that's one of the reasons why I don't do as many lives anymore, because I just don't have the time. I'm trying to make time, but it's difficult. So doing these videos is a lifesaver, and I really enjoy doing them. And I enjoy them because it gives you kind of a chance to talk about everything, put it all into one kind of big video, and you can just flow. You ever get that when you're just in it? I mean, some people would probably notice if they ever done presentations or stuff like that. You know, when you just feel good and you're just chatting, it just flows. You know, like the Danube River flowing into the Black Sea, it just flows. See, I get a bit of geography in there for you, boy. There you go. But anyway, we got to talk about some of these fights. So, obviously, fight camp I'll get to now in just a second. I've already done a lot of reviews for that, but I'll give my 2 cents on the whole of the event now in 2 seconds. But let's talk about the fight that happened on Friday in Falls Park up in Belfast, which was headlined by Conlon versus TJ Dehenny. I watched snippets of the fight. Like, I did watch, I watched Liam McGregor's fight. I did, and I wasn't home when Tyrone McKenna fought his guy, Jose Felix, but I was kind of in and out of the event. Surprisingly, it wasn't on BT Sports. It was on, I think, Fight TV here in the UK and Ireland. And normally Conlon, when he's fighting over here, he's always on BT Sports. But obviously BT, Top Rank, they're kind of not doing as much as they used to. Having said that, a lot of the ESPN shows, Top Rank shows, I would have thought would have been on Sky. Now, I know it was kind of almost like Sky Light, if you know what I mean, because they had Andy Clark and Dave Caldwell commentating. And normally, Dave Caldwell kind of intermittent commentator, but normally he does it on Sky. It was bizarre. They had Ali Drew as the host. She done a good job. They had Michelle Joy Phelps as well, asking the questions. And Michelle Joy Phelps' voice, some people like it. For me, it's nothing against her personally, but that voice, just the ha ha ha, it's just so annoying. But look, beggars can't be choosers at the end of the day. In terms of the card, Lee McGregor's fight with Vincent Legrin, I wasn't exactly looking forward to that fight because I thought that was going to be a walkover for Lee McGregor, because Lee McGregor, good bantamweight, good operator, you know, good European, looking to knock on the door at world level. But his opponent, he'd been campaigning down a flyweight at European level and wasn't really noted as being, you know, a massive puncher or anything like that. It's just kind of run-of-the-mill kind of fight. So I kind of thought this would be Lee McGregor just going in there and having a walkover. And whilst it might look like that on BoxRec, you know, that he, you know, knocked this guy out in 4 rounds, he was down in the second round. He said by his own admission that, look, a win's a win, but he felt like he had lots to improve on. And that's good for Lee McGregor, because Lee McGregor's been doing very well lately. You know, in his last fight prior to this was a first round knockout. That was cancelled a couple of times, but Lee McGregor's been looking very good on the Ben Davison. And I don't think Lee McGregor was getting ahead of himself, but I think that if he needed kind of any grounding, this was the fight for it. So I expect to see improvements. Who he fights next, I don't know. People talk about Paul Butler. I think Paul Butler's seen better days 3 or 4 years ago, so much less now. They said the Cash Farouk rematch, which I really, yes please. The first fight was very good, very competitive. I'd like to see that again, because both guys are very fun to watch. You know, they'll bring it. I'd love to see that fight. Good domestic level clash. You also saw Irish prospect Paddy Donovan get a first round knockout on this card. BoxRec haven't updated it yet, but he did. Again, Paddy Donovan's one of those fighters. He's an up-and-comer. He's a prospect, still at the prospect stage. Looking very good, very athletic, trained by Andy Lee. He's in a very tough division. You know, if you look at some of the guys at the top of welterweight, you know, you look at your Errol Spence's, your Terence Crawford's, all that. He's not at that. He's nowhere near that level yet. But if you even look at the guys who are up-and-coming now, Virgil Ortiz, Boots Ennis, it's going to be tough goings for Paddy Donovan. Certainly at 150, or certainly at 147 pounds. Top of the bill was Mike Conlon. Right, Michael Conlon, this was for the WBA interim featherweight title. Of course, WBA would chuck an interim title on that. Now, as far as I was aware, this was meant to be a super bantam, because Conlon is mandatory for Stephen Fulton, right? I think there's a bit of matchmaking going on here. So, would anyone pick Conlon over Fulton? I wouldn't personally. I think that at world level, in both divisions, Conlon gets absolutely annihilated, right? But understand that from a matchmaker's point of view. If you look at 122 pounds, right? Because Conlon said he can make that weight easy. Okay, we'll see. But you look at the guys like Stephen Fulton, even guys like Lewis Neary, you know, Brenda Figueroa, guys like that, and you just think he's going to be in trouble there. You look at 126 pounds. Leo Santa Cruz is pretty much on his way out. If not, he's going to stay at 130. Lee Wood could get elevated to full champion. You know, you've got Kid Galahad knocking around there. You also have... Who else do you have? You really... Emmanuel Navarrete is really the one you want to stay clear of. But Lee Wood, they might be looking at that. Both guys are managed by MTK. Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn, you know, they have done business in the past. They might do it again. So that's something to look at. So I think maybe they're looking at all their options. Look, at the end of the day, Michael Conlon, he is what he is. He's kind of stuck in the mould of amateur pro. He seems to... He is a good boxer. He's the most entertaining, not the biggest puncher, but he's kind of stuck between, like, he's getting like the pro style and the amateur style, and they're kind of clashing, and he kind of seems to be lost a bit. Having said that, you know, TJ Doheny had seen better days at this point. You know, he'd seen better days a few years ago. I think that Michael Conlon, if he does win a world title at 126, it would be against someone like Lee Wood. You know, they're trying to get it as easy as they can. At the end of the day, can you begrudge? So Ricky Burns is a 3-weight world champion. You know, no disrespect at all to Ricky Burns, but did he fight the best at the time? I remember when he won his world title at 140, he knocked out some Italian guy I'd never even heard of, and I've never heard of him since. You know, so at the end of the day, like, that's what it is. So that was the card on Friday. Like that, it was fun to watch. I'm surprised they didn't do it on Sky though, to be honest with you, because I had to try and, you know, watch Fight TV. You know, it's a streaming platform, and I definitely was streaming. But it was choppy as hell. It was really choppy. I don't know if other people had that, but it was so choppy. We go on to Fight Camp. Like, I've already done reviews of all these fights, but I'll just run through them very quickly, very briefly, and we'll move straight back on to some more news and boxing. So obviously, Kid Galahad stopping Jezza Dickens. That was a beatdown. That was a thorough beatdown. As I said in my post-fight, it was a false dawn, that first round, where Jezza Dickens looked like he was going to be very competitive, because the first round he won, and it looked like he was in it, and it just went downhill thereafter. I mean, he got dissected in there. He really got barred from pillar to post. And the stoppage could have come a little bit earlier, in my opinion. We look at Wadley versus Webb. I got that way wrong. I picked Webb to win the fight. I hold my hands up. That's got to be one of the worst. Like, really. Like, I mean, Jesus. I actually picked Nick Webb to win by knockout. I hold my hands up. I really got that one way wrong. Way wrong. So big up to Fabio Wadley. What he does next is a strange one. I hear people saying Nathan Gorman. Would Frank Warren... Maybe Frank Warren would just give Nathan Gorman, because Nathan Gorman has kind of hit his ceiling, I think. So maybe he would do something like that, have a Nathan Gorman fight. You know, kind of in and around that kind of level, you know. We've got Alan Babich, who fought there as well last night. They're not going to fight with a match by Dylan White. He's not going to do that. But Babich against Bennett, that was fight of the night. That was fun. Yeah, that fight was just... Babich, I will enjoy Alan Babich whilst he's there. I was listening to Ade's stream earlier, and he was saying Cash Ali. And that's a name that didn't come to my head. Hell yeah. Could you imagine the build up to that fight? Cash Ali is extremely limited. Very limited heavyweight. But he's tall. He's rangy. He would wind Alan Babich up. That would be fun. You know, I just wonder, would he revert back to the tactics he had against David Price, where he bit David Price? That was just bizarre. That was crazy. Johnny Fisher, you know, beating Danny Whitaker. You know, that was actually a good little win from Johnny Fisher. Johnny Fisher, I didn't do any reviews for him. I said it at the time. But Johnny Fisher, he looks to be a decent shout as a heavyweight, but I'll give him a bit more time before I start covering his fights, because I don't want to just... There's some prospects I'll cover because, you know, I see a lot in them. Not to say I don't see a lot in Johnny Fisher. He looks okay. But until I see a bit more, like, put it like this, I've never done a review of David Adelaide either. You know, so I'm giving them a bit more time just to kind of see them develop, and then, you know, when the time comes, I'll start doing some reviews on them. We also had Aku Fiaz, I think it's how you pronounce his name. Very close competitive fight he was in. It's a worry for him. Like, that's his last two performances have been very shaky. He's going life and death with these journeymen. That's never a good sign when you're at journeyman level. You're going 8 rounds, you're going life and death with a lot of these guys. You're winning them by narrow margins. Not a good sign. Needs to improve. Last but not least, Ebony Bridges, Beck Conley. I think I've already talked about this fight in my review, but I'll talk about it again. Bridges did what she needed to do, workmanlike performance. She went in, she got the win, she knocked back Conlon out in 3 rounds. And to be honest with you, I expected Bridges to win. I didn't think she'd win as quick as she did. Conlon, as I said several times, very limited, no head movement whatsoever to speak of. I'm sure the Statue of Liberty would move its head more. In fact, if the head fell off Statue of Liberty, it would still roll, which is more than Beck Conley's head would move. Nevertheless, Bridges still got rid of her in good fashion, so she moves onwards and upwards. I would say they're going to try and get her out on the Josh Warrington and Mauricio Lara bill, and thereafter maybe look at a rematch with Shannon Courtney, who knows, but that's kind of where we're going now. In terms of the Olympics, I'm going to talk about the Olympics. I haven't talked about much about that. Kelly Harrington, she won gold for Ireland, which is good because, believe you me, we don't get many medals in the Olympics. So for her to do that, it's very good. If we're looking at Team GB, Galalia Fai, I should say, winning gold for Team GB, big up to him. I thought he would do well in the Olympics. I really did, because I've seen a few clips of him. I've seen a few of his fights in the amateurs. I thought he'd do well. To be frank, I didn't think he'd get gold, but definitely, he impressed me. He is going to be one to watch when he turns pro. And a lot of these Team GB guys, put it like this, right? I did watch the last Rio Olympics, and I watched a lot of the GB guys, and there wasn't one who came from that team that I looked at and thought, as a pro, they're going to be alright. Even when they turned over, even Lawrence Okoli. Now, he's gone on to prove me wrong, big up to him. Full credit to Lawrence Okoli. He proved me very wrong. But when I looked at that crop turnover, I was just like, there's nothing to, they're so basic. But Watsy's okay, but the rest are just run of the mill. Even Josh Kelly, he was flashy, but I always said that he's flashy, but nothing else. And if I look at them now, that was 5 years ago. We've had a 5-year gap from the Rio Olympics. Joe Joyce, to be fair, he's gone on to do something. Okoli's a world champion, but the rest are just kind of still languishing at British prospect level. They're only just kind of getting the step up fights now. Whereas this crop from this Team GB, these look a lot better. They look a lot more polished. I'm very happy with a lot of these guys. Laura Price is going to be one to watch as well, moving over. In terms of who I think the best all round out of the Olympics is, I think Andy Cruz from Cuba. There's highlights of him on YouTube, and I'd encourage anyone to go and watch it. He is unbelievably slick, incredible footwork. Beat Keyshawn Davis in the final. Keyshawn Davis has fought him several times in the amateurs, and I wonder, is that going to be, if they ever meet in the pros, will it have an impact on Keyshawn Davis? Because Andy Cruz, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Keyshawn Davis ever beaten him. Or if he has, it was a while ago. Because they met in 2019, and I know Andy Cruz won that. I think they met before, Andy Cruz won that, and obviously they fought in the Olympic final. Andy Cruz won that again. Excellent fighter Andy Cruz is. He really is one to watch, and I'm definitely looking forward to. Hopefully he turns pro. He gets a good deal behind me, gets a good promoter, because he's definitely going to make strides in the pro games. 100%, mark my words, Andy Cruz is one to watch for the future moving forward. Canelo Alvarez, oh boy, we have to talk about Canelo. Good old Canelo Alvarez. So, it looks like, well, in fact, definitely, September 18th date is gonzo. So will it been now 3 years since Canelo was fought in September? Because it didn't happen last year, they couldn't get an opponent. Didn't happen in 2019 because the Kovalev Yard thing came about and he wanted the Kovalev fight. And it's not happening now this year because of the plant situation. It's all over the shop. Dimitri Bivol, he was talking about catch weights. Look, I'll be frank, right? My stance on catch weights, I don't like them. But if it's going to be a non-title fight, fine. Look, I'd rather, if you're going to fight at a weight, just fight at a weight. But if two guys are saying, right, it's a non-title fight, it's over 12 rounds, there's no belt on the line, we're both middleweights, but we'll meet at 158 pounds. Fine. Go for it. Fine. Go for it. Look, fine. But when you're putting light heavyweight titles on the line, and you're not, the limit isn't even 175 pounds. Now, I know they won't strip you. I know that. Because I remember when Canelo was fighting at Canelo weight, and the question was asked if either guy missed 155 pounds, because Canelo was middleweight champion at the time. I think he was fighting Amir Khan. And I think they said, if Canelo misses 155 pounds, will he be stripped? And they said, no, he won't be stripped because the weight limit is 160. So he's under the middleweight limit if he weighs in 156 pounds. But he'll have to pay a fine. He'll obviously have to give Amir Khan some. For a world title, like, why are you going down that road? Like, so I don't like seeing catchweights in title fights. I don't think they have any place in them personally. I think they're silly. Because at the end of the day, as I said, if you are fighting for a world title, why in God's name should there be a catchweight? So if the world title weight limit is 175 pounds, why in God's name are you fighting at 172 or 171? It makes no sense to me. Makes absolutely no sense to me. WBA president hopes to reduce the number of titles, hopes to plan that in October. Gilberto Mendoza, he's been saying that for years. I remember when Tyson Fury won the WBA title from Klitschko, they were talking about bringing the titles down. They were talking about consolidating the regular and the interim. How did that work? Because fast forward to 2021, we're still in that situation. In fact, it's even worse now. We've got Robert Helenius as the gold champion. We've got Trevor Bryan as the regular. We've got Daniel Dubois as the interim. We've got Manuel Charr as the champion in recess. We've got Anthony Joshua as the super champ. Am I missing one? I don't think so. I think that's it. So in 2016, 5 years ago, we said he wanted to reduce it to one. We now have 5 people with a form of a WBA. Anthony Joshua was the consensus champion. But we've got underneath champions almost at this stage. And it's just silly. It's so goddamn silly. I don't understand it at all. Well, I understand it at all because it's sanctioning fees at the end of the day. You know, it's sanctioning fees. Promoters like it because it gets their fighters' rankings, which, again, I think that's kind of silly as well because, you know, if you're... Put it like this, right? Anthony Yarde fought nobody. Absolutely nobody to be made mandatory for Sergey Kovalev. What he did was he won, and I think it was the Intercontinental WBO title. And he just defended it. By doing all them defense, he was able to just jump up the rankings. Like, what? That's why I think a lot of these tricky titles promoters love them, because it just gives their fighters an overinflated ranking. And at the end of the WBA make up a lot of their rankings as they go along. I mean, they put Mark DeMurray in their top 10. Who the hell has he fought since David Haye? Nobody. I'm sure he's fought since then, but he's not fought anyone of note or substance. Devin Alexander. Oh yeah, he lost last night. I picked him to win that fight by split decision. Now he lost it. I think Devin Alexander, his career really, in my opinion, ended 6 years ago. It'd be nearly 7 since the Amir Khan loss. I don't think Devin Alexander's ever been the same since. I'm surprised he's still knocking around, to be honest with you. Tommy Fury and Daniel Dubois will be out on the Jake Paul card. Opponents, I don't think, to be announced. Dubois out in America. At the end of the day, he's working with Shane McGuigan now, which is a good thing to have some confidence builder fights with Shane McGuigan. It's good. We didn't see much against Bogdan Dinu other than the knockout, and it was a good little knockout from Daniel Dubois, has to be said. So we'll see how he gets on. We'll see how he gets on over there. Tommy Fury fighting on the same card as Jake Paul. Yeah, like we kind of know what that is about. It's just more so to build a fight between the two of them, whether that happens or not. Hey, we'll wait and see. This is interesting, right? Amir Khan, now training with Terence Crawford, aims to finish off the career in the UK, eyeing the Kell Brook fight. Says here, you think I'm scared of Kell Brook. Do you know what, right? I've kind of gone back and forth in my head about Amir Khan, Kell Brook. But at this stage right now, both guys, see, this is not like Amir Khan or Kell Brook going in there with a Conor Benn or a Boots Ennis, where you're just kind of thinking, what's the point? You know, even if they win, even if Boots Ennis knocks Amir Khan's head off, that is just a faded Amir Khan. You have Amir Khan, who is definitely seen better days, although saying that he won his last fight was something Kell Brook can't say. Faded Amir Khan, definitely a faded Kell Brook. You'll normally get a good fight with that, because both guys are on the same level. They're both regressed enough that they're kind of going to balance each other. Honestly, I would have loved to have seen this fight 2013, 2014, 2015. That was the time to make this fight. Didn't happen then, and it's a shame. But a part of me still wouldn't mind seeing it now. Honestly, like, because both guys have regressed substantially. It's not like we're looking at it, right, and we're saying, right, Kell Brook is still at a decent level. You know, he could hang with the top welterweights, but Amir Khan, he's down here. It's not like that. Both guys are down here. Like, you would not pick both guys to win a fight over Boots Ennis or Virgil Ortiz. I wouldn't. So both guys are at the right kind of stage in their careers where neither guy is really going to have an advantage, you know. I would still pick... Do you know, I was going to say I would still pick Kell Brook. But that Terence Crawford fight showed me a lot. Kell Brook, his punch resistance is gone. You know, it really is. I know we can say about Amir Khan, he never had it there to begin with, but his punch resistance has gone really downhill. Like, really downhill. So, I don't know, could be an interesting one. Keith Turman and Tank Davis. Has any of you heard about that? The little rumours about Keith Turman versus Tank Davis. Tank Davis going up to 147 to fight Keith Turman. Turman, when he was in his prime, like 2014, I loved watching Keith Turman. I love watching him. I thought that he was like top of the welterweight pile. Ever since the Danny Garcia win, it's just been like that with Keith Turman, because that was kind of peak Turman, and some of it was injuries, but I'm going to be frank, some of it was just laziness. It was just... How many times did we see Turman out after a fight looking like the Kingpin out of Spider-Man, you know, in his suit, bursting at the seams? He would put on weight, he would get injured, he'd be inactive, you know, 2 fights a year is too many. It's just like, what the hell, mate? You know, if he'd have stayed active and kept fighting, he might have got injured, but nevertheless, we could have seen something. Whereas now, Turman, I mean, gee, he's not fought since Pacquiao, 2 years ago. I would still pick him over Tank Davis, but Tank Davis going to 147, if he lost to Keith Turman, I don't think that would hurt Tank Davis, because Tank Davis is really a 135-pound fighter. Even against Mario Barros, even though Barros is not the biggest 140-pounder in the world, still going up to 140, go to 147, that's a different ballgame altogether. You know, so I don't think that if Tank Davis went up and did fight Keith Turman, it's a big if, and he lost, I don't think it hurts him that bad. You know, obviously you want to get the win, and if he gets the win, I mean, geez, the sky's the limit for Tank Davis then. You know, Tank Davis, I don't agree with some of the things he does outside of the ring, but as a fighter, I love watching Tank Davis. He's entertaining as hell. He's a big puncher. He's a good fighter. You know, what's not to like as a fighter? I mean, what's not to like with Tank Davis, to be honest with you? Lastly, it looks like we're getting Josh Taylor versus Jack Catterall in Scotland in December. Okay? That's Josh Taylor's mandatory with the WBO, as far as I believe. So I'm going to leave it with that. That's his mandatory. It will be interesting to see how that gets on. A lot of people say that Jack Catterall is better than his fights so far have suggested. I do wonder if Jack Catterall has gone into the realm of being a gym fighter. And what I mean by that is they all say, I think Carl Frampton even said it as well, when you see Jack Catterall at the gym, you're just like, wow. But he doesn't do it in the ring. Now, I've seen a lot of fighters like that, and I've heard stories of a lot of fighters like that. I remember Manuel Stewart used to say that about Vladimir Klitschko. And Vladimir Klitschko, obviously an excellent fighter. We see him in the ring, excellent fighter. But Emmanuel Stewart used to say that Vladimir Klitschko was better than Lennox Lewis. He was a better fighter in the gym. But Lennox Lewis will always be better, because Lennox Lewis could take what he learned in the gym and apply it to the ring. Vladimir would leave so much in the gym that he wouldn't perform in the ring. You see, like the Eddie Chambers fight, where Emmanuel Stewart was like, what are you doing? Why are you in the 12th round with this guy? You could have beat this guy rounds ago. He would be furious with Vladimir. Because Vladimir would just get into the, alright, you know, I'm just kind of flight mode, and yeah, I'll get through it. And Emmanuel Stewart was like, no, get rid of this guy. What are you doing going 12 rounds with a guy you should have knocked out 5 rounds ago? Whereas that Lennox Lewis, there would have been no wasting time. You would have just been like, get rid of this chump, boom, gone, see you later. You know? So I wonder if that's Jack Catterall, because at times he's looked good in some of his pro fights, but other times he's looked, I don't want to say basic, but you've never looked at Catterall and thought, oh wow, you know, this guy, you know, he's going to be, you've never really done that. So maybe having Josh Taylor will bring out the best in Jack Catterall. Having said that, I think Josh Taylor is absolutely fantastic. Fantastic. Number one in the UK. Number one in the UK by a country mile. Undisputed at 140. I mean, he's the first undisputed fighter from the UK in the 4-belt era, as far as I'm aware. He has to be, unless I'm missing. No, he's definitely undisputed 4-belt era. Josh Taylor, great fighter, absolutely great fighter. If this is his last fight at 140, he's going out defenders. Other than Jose Zepeda, he's literally got one of the best resumes at 140. You know, you could ask for. Terence Crawford was undisputed at 140. Felix Diaz, John Molina Jr. Who else did he fight? Julius Ndongo. You know, Victor Postal, common opponent with Josh Taylor. No disrespect to these guys, but would Julius Ndongo beat Regis Prograis? Right? Would he beat Jose Ramirez? Would he even beat Ivan Baranchyk? I doubt it. Maybe Baranchyk, but not the other two. You know, Felix Diaz was a good fighter. Would he beat Jose Ramirez? I wouldn't pick him over Jose Ramirez. Would he beat Regis Prograis? No. You know, would Felix Diaz or would Jose Ramirez and Regis Prograis, would I pick him over Terence Crawford? I'll be honest, I wouldn't. But they'd be a lot more competitive than the other fights. So Josh Taylor's resume at 140, tops, beating some very good guys, and guys who are going to go on to do good things, probably at 147, like Jose Ramirez and Regis Prograis. With the exception of Jose Zepeda, Josh Taylor's literally beating everyone he's needed to anyway, certainly in that division. So big up to Josh Taylor. That's going to be a good fight. I reckon that'll be an entertaining. I reckon that fight will be better than people make it out to be. There'll be a lot of people probably dismissive of Jack Catterall, and you could understand why. You know, his best win, which say O'Hara Davis' best win probably. So some people would be dismissive, but Jack Catterall is I reckon we might see the best Jack Catterall, but I think Josh Taylor is just so much superior to the guys at 140, especially in the UK, that even if he is significantly better, we've seen him before, probably not going to be enough. I mean that in a nice way, it's probably not going to be enough. I think that's pretty much it. How long have I been talking for? Talking for a good while. I wasn't even timing it there, I'm just looking at the time. But yeah, so that's review of the week in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know, you could just subscribe, you know, smash the like button as well while you're at it, you know, it's just up there on screen, you know, like, subscribe, notifications, definitely helps your boy out. For now, lads and lassies, I'm going to leave it with there. I hope you enjoyed review of the week this week as much as I enjoy talking about it. So yeah, we're going to preview final week of Fight Camp this week. This card, right, by the way, I'm just going to point it before I go. The final week of Fight Camp, I'm going to wait until midweek to review that, because I'm kind of all over the shop with what's going on and what's not going on with that week. Because I'll actually get it here on my phone for you, because I'm royally confused. I'm hearing fights chop and change on this. Like, for example, right, I'm hearing Natasha Jonas is still on Boxer, but I'm hearing she's not on the card. I'm hearing Felix Cash is kind of unknown. Is he going to be there? Savannah Marshall, I'm hearing she's not going to be there. And these are on BoxRec, by the way. I'm hearing Joe Cordina may hop onto the card. I remember when I done the preview of Fight Camp Week 2, and I said, mark my words, I'll preview this fight and one fight will get taken off. Well, Ellie Scottney was meant to be on Fight Camp Week 2. That didn't happen, so if Ellie Scottney's watching this video, probably my fault you got taken off that card, or your fight didn't happen because I said you were going to fight. But here, she might be on this card. It's a mess, so I'm not sure what's happening with this. I really couldn't tell you, so I'm going to wait until I know this card in a nutshell. And to be fair, like, right, if they're getting guys in on a week's notice like Joe Cordina, they're not going to be fighting, you know, 50-50s, let's put it like that. So we'll wait and see about Fight Camp Week 3. I'll talk a bit more in a separate, but that card really is a bit of an anticlimax if you think about it. You know, last year you'd Fight Camp, was it 3 shows? It was 3 shows, culminating in that big Povetkin versus White pay-per-view. This one, you would think that you'd want to go out with a bang. You know, you would think that. You think like, right, we can't do, obviously, it's only in pay-per-view. We're not probably going to be able to get a massive, you know, boom, you know, big, you know, massive fight for the end of Fight Camp. But you think the 3rd week, you try and stack it as much as you can. With the exception of the main event, this is kind of looking like a next-gen show, if you think about it, because there's just not a great depth there. A lot of the fights are still TBA with a week to go. It's probably going to be, you know, a kind of glorified next-gen show. Which, look, I don't mind that, but you think if you're going to end fight camp, you'd end it with a bang. You know, sort of way you'd end it with like, right, we've had the first week, which was good. We've got them really hyped up for the second week, right? Let's knock them out of the park with week 3. Whereas this one, you're looking at it, and look, it's not the finished article, but you're going to look at it, you're just going to be like, meh. You know, there maybe be about 2 fights I'll review, if even, from fight camp week 3. Whereas last night I reviewed 4 or 5. So that kind of says it all. Went a bit over it now on that, but look, we'll talk about that when it comes to it. For now, lads and lassies, this is really the end this time. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. Hashtag GMadsRocks, all that good stuff. For now, lads and lassies, I'll talk to you. Peace. Before I go, right, 3 things I want to just discuss very quickly and very briefly. All right, a big, massive shout out and thanks to everyone who went over and subscribed to Jamie on Punch Perfect Boxing. You know, I obviously went on his channel last week. We've done a couple of videos together. Great guy. Hit 500. So I am chuffed for him. At the end of the day, it's one thing for me to recommend it. It's another thing for people to go over and stay for the content. So big up to him, and thanks to everyone who went over there. Channel there is on screen. I'm going to link it again in the description. But big up to him. Delighted he hit 500. So he's halfway to 1k. So massive shout out to him. I also want to give 2 shout outs. All right, one is to DJF, Speaker Mind Sports Talk. Again, got to big him up. You know, great channel. He always has good things to say about me, and I want to pay it back to him. There's a link to his channel in the description. There's a bit of his channel on screen. His channel is a lot bigger. It's over 2k, but still want to help him grow. He does a great morning show, so big up to him. And there's also another guy as well. It's the last shout out, certainly on this video anyway. Outmatch Boxing. This is a new channel, right? Guy's very new to it, but nevertheless, very good editor. Does his own thumbnails, well edited videos. You know, he's trying to get a channel up and running. You know, me and him, very similar in our beliefs, you know, so I'll leave it there. You know, people know what that means. So I got to big him up for that. So a link there. He's only got about 30 something subs. So go and give that a look as well. I always feel that look, I'm not the biggest channel by no stretch of the imagination. Nearly 5k subs, which I think is brilliant. It's not the biggest, I know that. But if I can help out someone, because I know how hard it is, believe you me, it took me 6 months to get 50 subs. I know how hard it is. If I can help out anyone, if they can even get like 5 subs from this shout out, then I feel like I've done something. I feel like I've helped them. And that's what I want to do. You know, I don't want to be one of these channels where it's like, yeah, look at me and this. I'm not like that. You know, I'll help anyone. I will go on anyone's channel and I will help even the biggest or the smallest channel. All they got to do is ask. My DM on Twitter is always open. I always answer it. It's always there. If anyone wants help, if anyone wants a shout out, just ask. Don't be afraid. I'll always help. So links are there to all their channel descriptions. Hope you have a happy Monday. Hope you have a great day. For now, lads and lassies, I will talk to you. Peace.